I grew up learning how to shoot. My grandfather, who taught me everything I know about shooting, did not. Rather, he didn't even shoot a gun until his stint in the U.S. Marine Corps. And he happened to be quite the natural, as he was able to earn the Rifle Sharpshooter badge utilizing the mighty M1 Garand. When it came time to learn how to shoot a pistol, he didn't do quite as well, and that's mainly because learning to shoot a pistol is considerably more difficult than learning to shoot a rifle. And he said that he was barely able to hit the broadside of a barn with a 1911. That's likely also due to the fact that those 1911s were probably just a little bit worn by the time he was in. When he left the Corps, he was a fan of the 1911 style anyway, and one of his earliest pistols was the Star Model B, a fairly popular 1911 style pistol chambered in 9mm. Enter me. I have always heard about how great the Star Model B was. And when J&G Sales started importing some Star Model B M's, I jumped at the chance to see if the Star Model B or the BM were as good as advertised. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. When you think of the word pistol, there are three that come to mind. There is, of course, the 1911, the Beretta 92, and the Glock 19. When you hear the word 45, the first pistol that comes to mind is the 1911. Since 1911, the 1911 has been exceedingly popular, and it's still super popular today, with numerous countries and companies manufacturing them by the pallet load. The 1911 is something that is like Doom. It is never going to die. It is going to be enhanced, it is going to be made more efficient, but it is still going to be with us in 2111. Now, I have never acquired a 1911 until now, mainly because I shot them while I was growing up, and when it came time for me to get my own pistols, I was kind of sick of them. But when they started being imported for cheap, well, I jumped on it, and I can see why so many people belong to the cult of John Moses Browning. This is the Star Model B M. These were manufactured from the early 1970s through the early 1990s, and these are not strictly 1911s. It's much more accurate to call them 1911 styled pistols. There are several differences between this and a pure 1911. The most obvious difference is the fact that this is chambered for 9mm parabellum and not 45 ACP. This is not such a blasphemy as you might think, as Colt in the 1950s started making 1911s chambered in 9mm parabellum. The Star Model BM also has an external extractor rather than an internal one, and there is no grip safety either. The trigger does not pull straight back, but instead pulls down. Other differences are less obvious, such as the firing pin being different as well. The pistol is Colt Commander sized. What does that mean? Well, the Colt Commander was designed as a smaller version of the 1911. The original 1911 had a barrel length of 5 inches, whereas the Commander had a 4.25-inch barrel. The size difference allows it to be concealed far easier. That being said, it's not a particularly small pistol. Here is a P64 for a size comparison. As you can see, the BM is still fairly large, and it's not easy to conceal with light clothing. If choosing to carry this pistol concealed, you will want something a bit heavier to ensure that it does not print. Commonly, you will hear that this pistol is heavier than it looks, and this pistol is a bit weighty, coming in at 1.15 pounds unloaded. Compare that to the Smith & Wesson M&P 40, which comes in at 1.8 pounds unloaded. Steel weighs just a bit more than polymer. When actually shooting this pistol, the gun does not feel too heavy. In fact, the pistol is very well balanced, as will be shown by my shooting segments. The weight of the pistol really does help tame the 9mm's somewhat snappy recoil. This example here was purchased from J&G Sales, and it was not $229, as many people say it is. It was actually a bit more than that. I chose to get the hand select, and as you can see, that was very much worth it, as this pistol is practically new and practically unfired. And I chose to get an extra magazine. Also worth it. But what other people won't tell you is that that's not all you have to pay. Before fees, I had to pay about $260. A little bit more than $229. But then I also had to pay $27 shipping, and then on top of that, a $25 FFL transfer fee. Contrary to some popular speeches, you cannot just have a firearm delivered to your house. It has to first go to an FFL holder, and of course they want their monies. Still though, at $325, this is still cheaper than the next cheapest 1911. So with all that being said, we have a sexy 1911. The bluing is deep and rich, and this example has, of course, next to no wear at all, both inside and outside. The only thing with any real wear was the plastic grips, and as you can see, these are not plastic. The plastic grips were easily replaced by some aftermarket grips that were purchased from 4S Grips. These grips here are English walnut. Said English walnut grips were only $50, which is pretty bloody cheap where grips are concerned. In addition to the new grips, I made one other important improvement to this pistol, and that of course is I removed the mag drop safety. Mag drop safeties are really annoying. They're what I like to call a feel-good safety. It feels good to have them because it makes the pistol safer. Now, they're there because theoretically, if the mag's dropped and they're still around in the chamber, the gun won't go off. And yeah, that'll happen, but what if, I don't know, a incompetent recruit or something like that pops an empty magazine in, there's one still in the chamber, and the gun goes off. I've read a number of stories about that, so really, these aren't as useful as people would think. The best safety is, of course, finger off the trigger, gun pointed away from you or anyone else. That way, if for whatever reason you do pull the trigger and it goes off, it just shoots the ground. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very easy thing to remove. Turn around on this side. See that hole? All you do is knock it out through that hole. And it falls out. That is literally a 5-second operation. Now, some will be a little bit more stuck in than others. Mine literally just fell out when I tapped on it with a punch. The markings for the pistol are absolutely exquisite, as one can see. They have a very classic look to them and are very well printed on the pistol. As we all know, if you've got a surplus pistol, you of course have that import marking. And yeah, that definitely stands out just a bit. The electro penciling still doesn't look that bad, even if it is kind of clashing with the rest of the gun. Still, despite this, it's not that big of a deal, and half the time you won't even notice it's there. Sights for the pistol are basic, but they certainly get the job done, and as you'll see in the shooting segments, the store model BM is a single-action pistol, meaning that the hammer must be pulled back in order for it to fire. Meaning, of course, you'll likely want to carry it cocked and locked. That means with the hammer back and the safety engaged. This is in contrast to a double-action pistol, like the P64 here, where you can cock either the hammer, or you just pull the trigger to fire. Both have their strengths and weaknesses. The single action will have a better trigger pull as it does not have to cock the hammer, but some feel that this is a little less safer due to the lightness of the trigger. Personally, I am a big fan of the single action as it allows for a much more accurate initial shot. Now, some have said that the 1911 is obsolete. That is true, perhaps in a military sense, and that is primarily due to the magazine capacity, as the magazines only hold 8 rounds of 9mm. So if you got a magazine in the pistol with one in the chamber, you will have a grand total of 9 rounds. And that, compared to 15 rounds, certainly sounds obsolescent, doesn't it? Then you have to keep in mind that the Star Model BM is being sold on the civilian market to civilians, and we are not getting to firefights against multiple assailants on a daily basis, no matter what certain media outlets would lead you to believe. While it's nice to have a higher capacity magazine, it is not necessarily essential. Just because one pistol holds more rounds than another does not automatically make it objectively better. I say that 9 hits are better than potentially 15 misses. And that actually applies in this situation, as I have found myself shooting this pistol a lot better than the much more modern M&P40. This pistol has its roots going back to 1911 and was manufactured in the early 1970s, and yet it is still competitive with a modern pistol from 2005. Compare that with this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Sony Mavica, a digital camera from 1997. It is laughably primitive compared to any camera today, and it's only 21 years old. In no way is it competitive with even the cheapest of digital cameras today. It truly is the definition of obsolete. The 1911, on the other hand, can still hold its own with a pistol from 2005. It may be old, it may be a bit heavy, it may not hold 15 rounds, but it is in no way obsolete. The 9mm is one of the most popular cartridges in the world today. It was designed by Georg Luger in 1902 for DWM and was itself a refinement of the 7.62x25 Borchardt cartridge. The 9mm has numerous names as well. It's simultaneously called the 9mm, the 9mm, the 9x19 NATO, the 9mm Parabellum, and of course, 9mm Luger. In fact, all the head stamps on all these cartridges will say 9mm Luger. Old Georg certainly knew what he was doing when he designed this cartridge, that is for sure. As the most popular pistol cartridge in the world, there are numerous manufacturers putting out 9mm rounds with different bullet weights, powders, and things of that nature. The most common bullet weight you will find is the 115 grain, and that is what we are going to be shooting today. The ammo being used today is Blazer Brass, one of the cheaper brands out there. I personally prefer Winchesters, but some Blazers were donated to the channel, and I have shot a good number of them through the Star Model BM. And they are not bad rounds and are suitably accurate, as you will see, but they are fairly weak rounds, and 1 out of 50 gave me a failure to extract due to not having enough energy to cycle the slide. If you can, I highly recommend sticking with Winchesters, as they do have more consistent powder charges, and they're not nearly as weak as the Blazers, and they cost about the same. So now, we're going to take this Star Model BM out to the range and see the mating of John Moses Browning's pistol design with Georg Luger's cartridge design. First up, of course, is the accuracy test. We're going to be shooting 2 mags at 25 yards at an 8-inch circular target. As you can see, this pistol has exceptional accuracy. In fact, I found myself shooting this pistol better than any other that I own. Looks like John Moses had something when he designed that grip angle. I was able to get 6 out of 17 shots in a 4-inch circle at 25 yards. Now, we're going to break out the silhouette target and do some one-handed shooting at 5 yards.
as one would expect, you can shoot this pistol quite accurately one-handed as well. You point the sight where you want the bullets to go, it seems. Now, let's do a rapid-fire drill at 5 yards. And this is what I meant when I said that Blazer Brass will have some weak powder loads. We got a failure to extract due to the fact the slide was not fully cycled. And that also means that we don't get a Gramp segment, as I'm going to do a rapid-fire drill again, and sadly I didn't have any ammo for him to shoot. But don't worry, we will have an extra long segment in the P64 re-review. This second rapid-fire drill was done with the exact same ammo and the exact same magazine, and as you can see, all the rounds had a suitable power charge to cycle the slide. And as you can see, the pistol is quite controllable in rapid fire. And here is a target from a later shoot with the Star Model BM. This was at 3 yards, and damn, this circle here was from my grandfather at 7 yards. And as you can see, he is quite accurate with this particular pistol as well. And now, he keeps joking that he will give me 20 bucks for it. I think I'm going to have to reject that offer.
Old, not obsolete, certainly sums up this pistol quite well. It's accurate, reliable, and damn fun to shoot. And I cannot recommend it enough. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good Beretta 92, and good Beretta 92 A3, whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you these awesome gun reviews.